It does seem odd. And again, yeah, she had all that momentum, and then the title got taken away from her, and now she's just in mid-card land, it seems,
Yeah.
without a title or a big match, kind of stagnant.
Now the rumor is that they're gonna have Charlotte Asuka 2 maybe, or Charlotte Rousey at Mania. So that'll be, they got a long way to go, I guess. They can build her up any time. It just seems like a weird thing. So maybe she's gonna win the Money in the Bank. Who knows?
That's possible. Very possible.
Yeah. Overall, SmackDown, I think, again, wins the week as far as which show was more entertaining. I think my biggest complaint with Raw is they got too much filler going on in this day and age, and it's not their fault. I mean, they have 3 hours of TV to kind of do anything with. So maybe that's. I wish they'd rethink that and try and maybe shorten it back down to 2 hours. I think they can get much more done in 2 hours.
Although I don't think it's really up to them as much as it is up to USA.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. All right, let's go into our first topic here, and that's NXT. Now, I admit that I didn't start watching NXT probably till about 2, maybe 3 years ago, when it was just starting to take off, and all of the current stars that we saw. Had your Shinsuke, obviously, was in there. You had your Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn were in there, and Banks and Charlotte, and all of them were still on the roster at NXT when I started to pay attention to them. And really, I didn't do anything other than watch the takeovers. But as the years have progressed, and all these stars, especially once some of my favorite TNA Impact stars were starting to come over, your Eric Youngs and your Bobby Roodes and all them started showing up in NXT, I really started to pay attention at that point, to the point where I'm now watching the TV shows on a semi-regular basis, and I don't miss any of the NXT takeovers. So it seems to be doing very well. They're selling out arenas for the takeover events everywhere they go. They're doing just as good as, if not better than, the main shows. And they're finally going on kind of mini tours, I guess you could say, where they'll hit a 3-weekend leg in one area of the country. Most of their shows are done in Florida, but they're still making these trips probably 3 to 4 times a year in an area. And, they're not doing Raw or SmackDown house show numbers, but they're doing pretty good at these shows. So is it time now for the WWE to maybe consider giving NXT a cable home and taking it off the network, or is it valuable enough to WWE to leave it on the network to try to get people to subscribe more?
I would say the latter. I think you answered your own question on accident without yourself even knowing earlier, when you said that there's already how many hours for each show on cable as it is. And I think it's a little bit different platform. What is on purpose a different platform? To go to the WWE Network and watch NXT, it's on demand, so it's easy to access if you do miss it. I like that it's really a flagship of the network. I mean, to get where you began on NXT, you said a couple years ago. As soon as the network hit the airwaves and they had their takeover arrival, the first one, I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. It's live, it's different. It was Cesaro and Sami Zayn and Neville, and Bo Dallas was still around, and it was so incredible. And I watched the live stream on my phone, and I was like, this is the next step. Like, this is it. I like that it's on the network. I can watch it wherever I want. And the fact that it is NXT, it makes it's like its own. It's like the network's own ECW. It's their own homegrown. This is their baby. This is what, no matter what you go watch on Mondays or Tuesdays or on Sundays, your Wednesdays and your Saturday nights for takeovers are always going to be solid no matter what. And they have upped the ante every single takeover. My God. Mm-hmm. They had the last one in Chicago, people blew the doors off of it. Then Philly was amazing. And then I happened to be at takeover in New Orleans, and my God, that was an incredible night. So there's nowhere to go but up. I like their tours. I went to one of their first tours they had in 2015 when they came to Pittsburgh. Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Joe, and I think Sami Zayn main evented, so in a fatal 4-way.
What an insane card that is.
Yeah, and now they're all big time guys on on the quote unquote main roster, and I think the house show stuff's great. It shows that they sell well, so
Yeah.
I don't see a reason for them to move out of the network at this time.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think keeping it on the network is a good idea, especially if takeovers keep doing as well as they're doing. People are really starting to pay attention now, and for the most part, every time that they lose talent to the major roster, they find ways to replenish them and don't miss a beat, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and
that's the other thing I was going to say. It's almost as if, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the part that I think is just amazing with them is that I even lost my train of thought now. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was saying that it's so interesting how it seems like they lose all these guys, and out of nowhere they pick up newer talent, or they sign all these other guys that they don't really talk about after they sign them, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're there. And I mean, Kevin Owens left, and after Seth Rollins left, they had all these other guys waiting in the wings, and then your Nakamura came in, and that took over for a while, and Finn Balor was there, and now you've got all these new guys coming up. You got Ricochet, all your indie guys, Donovan Dijak, some of the guys that I've seen for a couple years now, and now they're taking over. Quote, pun intended or not, but the future looks bright for NXT.
Yeah, and how many times have you heard, "Oh no, they're killing the NXT women's division because they bring up the top stars," and then what happens? The other women that were kind of the undercard move up and they take over, and nothing. You don't miss a beat. I mean,
yeah.
How impressive is that? You got Shayna Baszler as the champion right now. I remember watching her defeat Ember Moon thinking, well, I don't know if this is going to work out. She's been nothing short of spectacular as champion.
She's doing exactly what Ronda Rousey needed to do.
And, for sure.
And if Ronda wants to continue on a path of success, she should look to her friend and see that, and she was front row there at New Orleans when she won the title off Ember Moon. So
I think that, WWE is trying to capitalize on Ronda Rousey, having her be this smiley face. The best thing for her, though, would be to be a heel. Because she can't come out and just have this huge-ass grin on her face all the time and people take her seriously. But she can come out and give that look to people and beat the crap out of them and be taken very seriously. And I think that they need to move in that direction at some point because otherwise they're going to kind of ruin Ronda Rousey before she even gets going.
I would say it could be a smart move. Again, I'm not a big fan of her grinning every single time she comes out, but at the same time, she's not your typical WWE character. She is a fan that just transitions, so she's really taking it all in, and I think after a while she'll stop getting there, and she'll probably have a character change to where she maybe a heel, maybe not, but I could see where that'll have to change her demeanor going forward.
Yeah, and I think the best thing that they can do, give Shayna Baszler her time here to kind of really work things out, but they got to bring her up and they got to form that four horsewomen of the MMA to take on the four horsewomen of the WWE.
What would you do that in a Survivor Series match, or what would you do?
No, just as factions. You don't have to necessarily have it be 4-on-4 or anything like that. But in the long run, you got two groups of females calling themselves the Four Horsewomen. One sat in MMA world and the other sat in wrestling world. Now they're kind of coming together in the wrestling world. Why not put that together and build off of that? I think that would be fantastic.
I agree. I think that's something they should definitely look at going forward. And who knows, maybe they'll do it.
Maybe they will. Who knows? Yeah, I got to see NXT when they came through town. It was last summer, and it was by far my favorite live event I've ever been to, excluding a pay-per-view experience. Okay. But any kind of live event house show, they put on a great show. And there were guys there that I'd never seen before at the time when I did this, and they just tore the house down with these guys. Drew McIntyre had just come back and he was chasing who was he chasing at the time? I think it was Bobby Roode, who was the champion. and he was kind of chasing that title reign. And so that was really good. Roderick Strong was on there, and I knew him from back in the early TNA days. He had wrestled when they were on the Fox Sports Network and things like that. And the Heavy Machinery was brand new. They came out and killed it. Killian Dane wrestled against Johnny Gargano in the opening match and tore it down. It was unreal. You know, this little Johnny Gargano taking on this big guy, Killian Dane, and it was amazing. So, I mean, it was an awesome experience to go to that show. And, you know, I think I was second row for the whole night, and I didn't want to leave. It was so good. So they put on a great show. I think that was the first weekend that Shawn Michaels was actually on the road as an agent for them. So that was kind of fun.
I don't know if you saw that he produced, I think, the North American title ladder match that was received so highly of Meltzer.
I don't doubt it.
And others, yeah. And
I mean, Shawn Michaels
played a part in the main event too with the Gargano thing, but
yeah, Shawn Michaels is involved in two of the greatest ladder matches in history, right? So who better than to have him produce that?
What other ladder match are you?
Both the Razor Ramon matches.
The SummerSlam '95 one in Pittsburgh. You think that one's up to par?
Yes, '95 and the WrestleMania 10. Both of them were fantastic.
Now, see, I think I have to revisit that '95 one because I don't. People are like half and half. They can't tell me if they're fully on board with it being better, or they're like, oh, it's not, like nothing can top the first one. And
well,
I don't know.
Look at it in this context. They were told.
It's almost like you got to watch it in a vacuum. You can't watch it.
I mean,
like looking to beat Mania 10. It's probably not going to happen.
But when you watch it, just remember this: they were told they can't use the ladder as a weapon in that match. So watch it knowing that they're not going to hit each other with that ladder. They're going to bounce off it, and they're going to jump off it and things like that, but they're not allowed to swing it or hit each other with it or anything like that. So when you go into it, think about that and how they were able to pull that off and come out with a very good match. Is it better than WrestleMania 10? Probably not, but it's close. It's close. It was really good. So I would put that out there with anything. He also had a really good ladder match with Chris Jericho. You know,
at No Mercy 2008.
Yeah, I mean, hanging from the title, both of them.
That one is one of my that's a favorite of mine.
I mean,
that whole pay-per-view was great.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to put on some great ladder matches. So if I had a ladder match, I'd probably ask him to do that too, because he knows exactly how to do it, the psychology of it, and everything else. And as we saw, it turned out awesome. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
That we'll talk about this more next week when we get into NXT Takeover. But Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, best feud of the year right now.
One of the best feuds in a long time in wrestling.
It's been phenomenal.
People have been praising it so much, and I can't disagree. It's hard to get that type of storytelling. I don't want to compare it to anything, but the one of the last real true epic storylines that was before the era of the internet and all that was the Mega Powers, and it was such a long build, and people revere that was such a great feud, and it's tough to replicate stuff like that, especially now when the internet is a thing, and you don't know who's really friends, who's really enemies. But they've taken this feud to a new level with social media as well, where no matter what is shown or seen, Ciampa will say something in haste, no matter what it is. He'll have people come up to him that want to sign Johnny Gargano stuff, and he'll say, "Go away." He won't do it. And it's a true test to these guys wanting to be the top of their game, and it's only going to get better, even though they've hit quite a few peaks at this point. Yeah.
Oh, it's been great, and you know, to be able to do this. I mean, when they first got started, when Ciampa got injured shortly after the feud was started, it was almost like a drain on everything. But it's amazing how after what was he out? A good 6 to 9 months or something.
And then he came back and used it as a weapon.
Yeah, he was out a long time, but once he came back, they picked it up right where they left off, and it's been awesome ever since. So I'm looking forward to it. I actually really enjoy the whole Candice LeRae part of it as well. I think it's been done really well, which is interesting because if you watch the Impact product, you'll notice that the Eddie Edwards Sami Callihan storyline is very similar to the Ciampa Gargano storyline going on, where they're bringing in Eddie Edwards' wife into the storyline. That's not been